If you're a fan of true crime, you may have seen these murder scene dollhouse dioramas before. They were created in the 1940s by a woman named Frances Glessner Lee, who was a huge fan of forensic science and also dollhouses. Her collection of dioramas are called the Nutshell Studies of Unexplained Death, and they were based on actual crime scenes that she had visited. These models are still used in forensic science training today, and the way you solve them is by gathering all of the relevant clues and interpreting the evidence, not necessarily figuring out who done it. They're supposed to test your observation skills and attention to detail, but I thought it'd be fun to see if we can also be detectives in addition to forensic scientists and crack this case, because technically it's been unsolved and cold for over 78 years. Barbara Barnes, a housewife, was found dead by police who responded to a call from the victim's husband, Fred Barnes, who gave the following statement. About 4 p.m. on the afternoon of Tuesday, April 11th, 1944, he had gone downtown on an errand at the request of his wife. He returned about an hour and a half later and found the outside door to the kitchen locked. It had been standing open when he left. Mr. Barnes attempted knocking and calling, but got no answer. He then tried the front door, but it was also locked. He then went to the kitchen window, which was closed and locked, but looking in, he saw what appeared to be his wife lying on the floor. He then summoned the police. So taking a look around this scene, we see Barbara lying face up on the floor. Her skin is reddish and purplish. It has that death by asphyxiation sign. There is an ice cube tray right next to her. The fridge door is ajar. And right behind her, the oven is open, the door is open, there is a freshly baked pie waiting to come out. In the back, we see a sink, we see potatoes, some of which have been peeled, seems to be ready for boiling. In the middle, we see a butcher's block, and there is a rolling pin, a cutting board, and there's also a drink right next to those. Towards the front of the scene, there is an ironing board, an iron, there is a basket of laundry waiting to be ironed, and on the far right of the room, we see a chair with some freshly ironed folded sheets, and on top of those is a paring knife. Both of the doors to the kitchen are locked, closed from the inside, and they are stuffed with newspaper in every single crevice. The breakfast nook looks to be in disarray. The bench is crooked, and the window is missing its pin. Barbara was clearly in the middle of multiple projects here. There's the pie in the oven, her laundry, the potatoes, the ice tray. This doesn't seem like the setting for someone to just drop everything that they're doing, turn on the gas burners, and decide to kill themselves. The newspaper being shredded and cut and stuffed into the doorways like that, the doors and the windows being locked, are pretty clear indications that this was staged to look like a suicide, but the surrounding evidence points to homicide. So I think that she was knocked out from behind. There is a rolling pin, there's an iron, you have these two objects that could have very easily been weapons. It doesn't look like there's any sign of a struggle in here, so if someone was in the room with her, it was someone that she clearly knew, felt safe with, didn't feel nervous about having a stranger in the kitchen with. And this could have been in the middle of a discussion or disagreement. It could have been something where the other person was upset about. Maybe she got them a drink. She goes to the fridge to get ice to prepare the drink, and in a fit of rage, they pick up the rolling pin and they hit her from behind. And in order to cover it up, now they're kind of screwed because they've knocked her out, possibly killed her. They think, oh, let me just stage it to look like a suicide. So they take the newspaper, stuff the doors, lock them, turn on the gas burners, and then get out of the room in a quick hurry. And that's why everything is kind of messed up over here. When I was working on this video, I actually found an old write-up from 1944 that had a very similar theory, and it is as follows. Mr. and Mrs. Barnes quarreled sharply and often, and on the morning of April 11th, they had a longer and sharper quarrel than usual, and Fred left the house and didn't return for the noon meal. Mrs. Barnes became very pertinent and was greatly upset. She determined to get the nicest supper she could think of, everything that Fred liked, but she was so overwrought that she didn't seem to be able to finish one thing before she undertook another. The unfinished laundry, unfinished potato paring, etc. As she was taking the ice cube tray out of the refrigerator to fill it, Fred, who in the meantime had evolved a plan for disposing of her, came in the outside kitchen door and hit his wife over the back of the head with a rolling pin. Her feet slid out from under her on the slippery linoleum and she fell to the floor, unconscious but not dead. He then brought in a bunch of old newspapers, shut and locked both doors, and stuffed up the cracks with the knife his wife had used to peel the potatoes. He left the knife on top of the freshly ironed sheets. He then turned on 2 of the gas stove burners and climbed out the window in the breakfast nook, closing the window from the outside by means of the spring lock. I appreciated how this theory actually gave more of a backstory. It gave a motivation for Fred's actions. Unfortunately, there is no official answer. Francis was very adamant that these were supposed to be for observation, not necessarily figuring out the crime. But I think that this case, if presented like this, seems really plausible. It would at least give the detectives some motives on which to further check out the husband. So if you picked up on everything here, if you pointed out all the evidence, then you might have what it takes to become a forensic scientist. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out some of her other dioramas and see if you can solve even more of these cold cases. Thanks for watching as always, and until next time.